Welcome back to another Valley Sports Plug Arizona Cardinals recap for Week 7. It's Thursday, October 20th, 2022, and the New Orleans Saints were in town taking on the Arizona Cardinals, both teams 2-4. The final score was 34-42. The Arizona Cardinals winning this one and making one step closer to 500 now with a 3-4 record and a long rest before next week against the Minnesota Vikings. But let's break it down and talk about it. We got Kyler Murray throwing 20 completions on 29 attempts, 204 yards with a touchdown, 7 carries on the ground for 30 yards. DeAndre Hopkins in his return had 10 receptions for 103 yards, unfortunately not making it into the end zone this week, so the Tallman ticket was a bust. You can check that out on TikTok, of course.
It's a special edition. It's not the Tallman ticket.
Okay, you're right. Special edition. So Benjamin had 12 carries for 92 yards and a touchdown. Keontae Ingram, 9 carries, 14 yards, and also got in the end zone. Greg Dortch had a touchdown in there on a 5-yard pass, his only reception. I think important to note on the defensive side of the ball, the Cardinals defense picked off Andy Dalton 3 times, taking 2 of those to the house. That was Isaiah Simmons and Marco Wilson with the pick sixes, Antonio Hamilton with the first interception in the back of the end zone. It's important to note that 2 of those pick sixes, or the 2 pick sixes, happened 1 minute and 4 seconds apart. Andy Dalton looking very upset out there. Speaking of Andy Dalton and the New Orleans Saints, he completed 30 passes on 47 attempts, 361 yards and 4 touchdowns. Pretty good stats if you don't count the 3 interceptions he had in there. Taysom Hill did have 2 passes and 2 completions for 48 yards. He had 1 reception for a receiving touchdown, and Juwan Johnson had 5 receptions for 32 yards and 2 touchdowns. Just a quick broad glance at the game. We had a early touchdown from the Saints. Rashid Shaheed had a 53-yard touchdown, dragging the Cardinals defender into the end zone. I expect to see some memes about that one. Cardinals would answer with a pair of field goals to make it 7-6. The Saints had a touchdown and making it 14-6, but 2 interceptions back-to-back made it 14-24 going into the half. The Saints did get a field goal coming out of the half, but Greg Dortch grabbed that touchdown to expand the lead 17-35 at that point in time. The rest of the game pretty much cut and dry from there. Saints had a touchdown to trim it down. Benjamin answered. Saints would go on to get another touchdown and field goal to trim the lead to 34-42 as the final score, as we said. So wish it was more of a blowout. I will say personally, I might add some more thoughts on down the road, but I'm really curious to hear what these guys have to say. So Michael Benjamin, I'll pass it to you first. What did you see out there from the Arizona Cardinals this week?
Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Our first home win since October 24th, 2021, almost a calendar year since the Redbirds actually won at home. We'll take it any way that we can get. This was an interesting one, to say the least, guys. Starting off slow once again. At least we score in the first quarter. We get 3 points from Rodrigo Blankenship. Welcome addition either than Matt Amendola. We will absolutely take it. I know he missed an extra point, but in the end, it didn't really matter that much. First half, it never really felt like we were too much out of it, even though we were losing early. And we saw some blow-ups on the sidelines from Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury, which is not to be surprised. I mean, these guys are hand in hand for the success of this offense. And to come out and start slow once again in week 7, not really pick up anything until after those 2 interceptions returned for touchdowns, you're just going to see some frustrations from these guys. And I totally understand it. But as long as these guys can get on an even keel and finish the game like they did, you can kind of brush it to the side. Defense, once again, they gave us all the momentum going into the second half. Shout out Marco Wilson. I know he got torched on that first drive for that 53-yard touchdown, but he redeemed himself with that INT reception. And Isaiah Simmons coming up clutch with a huge, huge interception return to put us up by 2 touchdowns going into the second half. I know we talked about yesterday on our live stream that we need to come out and grease these guys, and that helped the wheels move forward in regards to that. Obviously, the final score doesn't reflect what really happened in this game. The Cardinals were in front for primarily in the entire second half and scored touchdowns on the offensive end in the second half, which is what we needed to give us some momentum going into Minnesota next week. I liked what I saw from Benjamin in regards to the ground game. Only had 12 carries, but 92 yards and a touchdown, stretching out towards the end in the fourth quarter for his one score. I'll take it, man. We need guys when it's time for them to step up. They do it and they make a statement, right? Last week we were hoping to get that from him, but this week we got it. Overall, there was just a huge explosion of points in this game. So take everything that you saw today with a grain of salt. Both teams were coming off a short week. Now we get some extra time, maybe get some guys back healthy. I know Kyler Murray was hobbled at the end of that game. It looked like maybe something with his ankle as well. So we'll have some extra time to get some rest, get some ice, and come back ready to go. But I'll take a home win, man. That's all it comes down to. Like, I will take a home win. We needed to see it to get some motivation going for these guys. And the breaking news from today was Christian McCaffrey was traded to the 49ers. So thank goodness that we won this game, because this division is getting tougher and tougher by the day. Even though the top 3 teams above us are 3-3, we got our work cut out ahead of us. But good to see a win at home. Good to see some momentum going into a tough matchup with Minnesota, and not too high, not too low. We're back right in the middle where we want to be, especially after D-Hop's first game back. Screw a Call of Duty release. We got Nuketown back in the building, and it was great to see him on the field. And my goodness, it was great to see those dreads going. We didn't get the touchdown for the Tallman ticket, but he was targeted heavy early and often. I can't wait to get him back into the fold for this offense. And let's keep plugging away, man. This is exactly what this team needed.
Absolutely, Mike. I think you make a ton of really good points there, and I definitely want to touch on Benjamin and DeAndre Hopkins in particular. You can definitely tell that Kyler was missing DeAndre Hopkins, like you said, targeted heavily with all those yards, over 100 yards receiving and those 10 receptions. Although it was disappointing he didn't get in the end zone, I love the relationship you can tell he has with Kyler Murray, where there's a mutual respect and trust there. When he was getting into it with Cliff Kingsbury on the sideline, who was right there putting his arm over his shoulder, telling him, hey, let it go, it's all good, whatever he was saying to him to try and calm him down and get his quarterback back in the right mindset. And they went on to get those 2 pick sixes, which didn't heavily have to do with Kyler. But then after that, the next time Kyler steps on the field, I'm pretty sure he's threading it into Zach Ertz for the 2-point conversion. Another thing I saw is on a play where Kyler Murray kind of got a little scared, I think, and threw it a little early. D-Hop wasn't quite ready for it, didn't see the pass coming, and he kind of gave him like one of these, like, hey, man, like, I didn't see it. Like, make sure you're, giving me time to see the ball, I think is maybe the message he was trying to convey there. But the fact that your two of your star players, because the Cardinals have so many star players, it seems like, and potential stars and up and coming guys, especially when you look at the defense, Isaiah Simmons, Budda Baker, JJ Watt is obviously a superstar. But besides the fact, and getting back to my point, Benjamin, and me and Tallman here, we're watching the game together at Sandbar and Gilbert, and we were noticing that is really starting to break out, and we love to see it for this kid. A hometown guy, went to ASU, and we talked about it at the bar. Some people might not know this. Benjamin holds the ASU records, number 1 rushing yards in a single season. 2018 had 1,642 rushing yards in a single game. First place, he had 312 yards in 2018 in a game, 312 rushing yards in a single game, and number 6 all-time ASU rushing touchdowns with 27 in his career. These guys aren't in college long. You got to understand, 2-3 seasons and deep, big rosters where they're not just playing 1 or 2 running backs. They're playing like 4, 5, 6 running backs any given game. Now, when you got a Kalen Ballage and an Benjamin, those guys probably get some more carries, but that just goes to show this kid's potential. I think Benjamin's still a young guy in his mid-20s, and if he starts finding his footing here, even not discounting James Conner, but watch out, that could be a mean 1-2 punch to have a strong Benjamin and James Conner, and even maybe taking some of that load off of James Conner could be a benefit. But I've done enough rambling here. I want to know what Tallman has to say about tonight's performance.
I will tell you what I think about the Arizona Cardinals, Chris. We won a home game. Props to them. That is so big for the fan base, and I'm so happy for everybody, even happy for myself that we finally won one of those games. We're going to talk about the positives before I go into the negatives, okay? Because to think that there are negatives on a win, that's crazy, right? But there are a lot of negatives that went into this win. Dude, that defense, again, carried that team, made that win possible, right? We had 3 interceptions. The first one was from our boy, Antonio Hamilton. It's the first time he has burned somebody other than himself. Who cares about the first quarter, right? If we can score 25 points in the second quarter, I don't give a shit. That was great. So the fact that our offense and our defense can come together to make it 28-14 at halftime was amazing. That was really nice to watch. I haven't had that much fun watching a Cardinals game the entire season. So it was great. So we'll give them that. What's crazy to think about is that was the first time the Cardinals scored 40 points in a game since 2017. First time that Cliff Kingsbury has ever scored 40 points as a coach for the Arizona Cardinals. So
Wow.
that's a little crazy, right? First time we've scored more than 30 points this season. So this was a much needed win. I don't want to call it a confidence boost or whatever, but we needed that so bad. And and we did it. So that was great. Finally, we don't have that shit hanging over our heads anymore. So props to them. I was really proud of them. Benjamin is the man. I know I talked a little bit of smack about him on our live stream before, but he really showed up, man. He rushed for like 95 yards. He took like 25 in receiving or something like that. Got that awesome 2-point conversion, which was huge at the time to make it, I think, 14-14, where he extended to get that fucking ball across the plane. And that was huge to make it 14-14 because who saw 2 pick six happening within a minute and 4 seconds coming after that? Dude, we scored 25 points in 3 minutes. What? I mean, that was amazing. So, like I said, I think that's mostly where the fun of watching it came from was that stretch of time before halftime. Because, dude, I was happy 14-14 going into halftime. It was like it's a tied ball game. Let's start over again in the second half and see how it goes. That was great. That was so awesome watching that. Especially awesome because it's against the New Orleans Saints. Fuck the Saints. Fuck New Orleans. You guys suck ass. Take that. Oh, how does it feel, baby? Yeah, let's go. It was good. It was good. Good watching that. Let's go to the negatives. Did you guys see the Andy Dalton stat line? That motherfucker threw for 30 yards, 47 attempts, or excuse me, 30 completions, 47 attempts, 361 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. So he had a great stat line if you minus those 2 pick sixes, right? So my negative here is what's going on? The Saints had 494 total yards. We only had 341 total yards. And what you mentioned before was, oh, well, it didn't even seem like the Saints were even in the game at some point. Like the Cardinals were ahead by so much, or the momentum was so much in their favor. Like the Cardinals are going to win that game. But we let them come back into the game because our offense was not really doing much. Let's do some quick math right here. So the final score was 42-34, right? All right, let's take out those 2 pick sixes. Let's pretend that we got those interceptions, but they weren't returned for touchdowns. And we didn't get those 14 points. Let's pretend that we only got 3 points off of each one. That's 6 points, right? So do some math. That would be 34-34. So if we didn't have those, I'm not going to call them miracles because props to those 2 players, Marco Wilson, Isaiah Simmons, for pulling off those pick sixes. But say we only got 3 points off those interceptions, those turnovers, and the way our offense was playing at that point, I wouldn't have been surprised if that was the case. We're talking about a really close game. If it wasn't for Andy Dalton melting down and handing that to us to win that game handily, that game would have been a lot closer than what it felt. Our offense did not do what I would have hoped it would have done. Just like what we thought last week. We thought we were going to fucking kill them right? We're going to kill the Seahawks. We're going to kill the worst defense in the league. We're going to kill the Saints, down their top cornerback. Their second cornerback gets hurt in the first quarter. What is going on? Why aren't we scoring more points than that? Why don't we look more comfortable on offense? How come we didn't beat them fucking 50 to fucking 34, you know? So that was kind of the negative. The defense again bails out the offense. If it wasn't for those two pick sixes within a minute and 4 seconds, which is fucking incredible. Again, had a lot of fun watching that, but if it wasn't for that, I don't know. I don't know what type of game we're talking about, you know? It would have been a total different type of the total different second half if that didn't happen. I won't be that negative. We won the game. This is a must win. Kingsbury is going to go home to his sweet house on Camelback Mountain, and he's going to be happy that he survived one more week without having the fan base come at him with pitchforks. So I can't complain about it. We won the game. We finally scored over 40 points. We scored over 30 points this season. We looked like we showed some life. That defense, again, props to them. So that's all I got.
We will, like we said, be back here week 8 when the Arizona Cardinals travel to Minnesota to take on the Vikings and try and get to 500. For Michael Benjamin and VSP Tallman, I'm Chris Patrick. We'll see you next time.